Hello, my friends. This is Dr. Alan Mandell. Today, I want to talk directly to all of you who are over 60. One of the biggest challenges we face as we age is muscle loss. This is called sarcopenia, a natural decline in muscle mass and strength that starts creeping in after 50 and speeds up after 60. But here's the truth. You don't have to accept it. You can fight it. And the way you fuel your body plays one of the most important roles. Now we all know eggs are a powerhouse of nutrition. For years, we've been told they're one of the best sources of protein, and yes, they are fantastic. But here's what most people don't realize. There's a food that has even more protein per serving than eggs, and it's completely natural, affordable, and easy to add to your diet. That food is lentils. As we move into our 60s and beyond, one of the most profound but often overlooked changes in the human body is the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength. This process is known as sarcopenia, and it is a natural part of aging. Yet, while natural, it is not inevitable to the degree that many people assume. Sarcopenia can be slowed, managed, and in many cases even partially reversed, particularly when we bring awareness to it and take action through nutrition, lifestyle, and exercise. When I talk about this with my students and patients, I often begin by highlighting just how central muscle health is to everything we do. Muscle is not only what allows us to move, stand, and perform tasks, it is also a metabolic powerhouse. It helps regulate blood sugar, supports bone health, and contributes to balance and stability. The loss of muscle mass, therefore, is not simply about weaker arms or legs. It is about reduced resilience of the entire body. The physiology of sarcopenia is complex, involving multiple interconnected factors. Around the age of 40, we begin losing about 1% of our muscle mass each year, and this process accelerates after the age of 60. Alongside this decline, strength diminishes at an even faster rate, often 3% per year. This is because not only are we losing muscle fibers, but the quality of those fibers is deteriorating. The muscle tissue that remains is infiltrated with fat and connective tissue, reducing its ability to contract effectively. Compounding this is the gradual loss of motor neurons, the nerve cells that communicate with muscle fibers and tell them when to fire. When motor neurons die, the muscle fibers they once activated either shrink or are lost entirely. Hormonal changes also play a significant role. Testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin-like growth factor, hormones that support muscle maintenance and repair, decline with age. At the same time, many older adults experience low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging. This chronic systemic inflammation interferes with muscle protein synthesis, making it more difficult for the body to build and repair muscle tissue even when adequate protein is consumed. Mitochondrial function, the ability of our cells to produce energy efficiently, also declines with age, further impairing muscle performance and endurance. Now, while these biological processes may sound discouraging, here is the empowering part. Lifestyle and dietary choices make a profound difference. Sarcopenia is not an automatic sentence of frailty. Studies have consistently shown that people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s can regain significant muscle mass and strength when they engage in resistance training combined with proper nutrition. Even modest interventions yield measurable benefits. For example, a senior who begins walking with light weights or performing simple chair squats several times a week can improve not only muscle strength but also balance, reducing their risk of falls and fractures. Nutrition is equally critical. Muscles require a steady supply of amino acids, the building blocks of protein to maintain themselves. However, older adults often eat less protein than they need, either because of reduced appetite, chewing difficulties, or outdated beliefs about dietary restrictions. Research has demonstrated that while younger adults may maintain muscle on moderate protein intake, older adults require a higher intake to stimulate the same level of muscle protein synthesis. This is sometimes referred to as anabolic resistance. Essentially, the aging body becomes less efficient at turning dietary protein into muscle, so more protein distributed evenly across meals is needed to achieve the same effect. The quality of the protein also matters. Animal-based proteins such as eggs, dairy, and meat are considered complete, containing all 9 essential amino acids, yet many plant-based proteins, when consumed in appropriate combinations, are equally effective in supporting muscle maintenance while offering additional benefits such as fiber, antioxidants, and lower saturated fat. What's most important is consistency, ensuring that every meal contains a meaningful amount of protein rather than saving it all for dinner. For example, instead of a breakfast of toast and coffee, an older adult might benefit from oatmeal with soy milk and nuts, providing both protein and anti-inflammatory compounds. Beyond protein, other nutrients play crucial roles in preventing sarcopenia. Vitamin D is essential not only for bone health but also for muscle function. Magnesium, potassium, and calcium contribute to muscle contraction and relaxation. Omega-3 fatty acids found in flax seeds, walnuts, and fatty fish help reduce inflammation and improve muscle metabolism. Antioxidants from fruits, vegetables, and legumes protect muscle tissue from oxidative stress, which tends to accumulate with age. Together, these nutrients form a nutritional environment that supports muscle maintenance and repair. The consequences of ignoring sarcopenia are far-reaching. Loss of muscle translates to loss of independence. Something as simple as getting up from a chair, climbing stairs, or carrying groceries becomes increasingly difficult. Falls become more common, and recovery from illness or injury takes longer. Metabolism slows, contributing to weight gain and insulin resistance. Bone density decreases, raising the risk of fractures. In short, the decline of muscle sets off a cascade of health challenges that affect nearly every system in the body. This is why gerontologists and nutrition scientists are increasingly emphasizing the importance of muscle as a key biomarker of healthy aging. The good news, however, is that intervention at any age brings benefit. Even individuals in their 80s who begin strength training have shown remarkable improvements in muscle size and functional ability. It is never too late to start, and when exercise is paired with adequate protein, whether from eggs, lentils, beans, tofu, or lean meats, the results are magnified. In randomized clinical trials, older adults who increase protein intake while engaging in resistance training gain more muscle mass and strength than those who trained without adjusting their diets. This synergistic effect demonstrates just how powerful the combination of nutrition and movement can be. Culturally, there is also a mindset shift required. Many people believe that weakness in old age is inevitable, a natural decline that cannot be helped. But science tells us otherwise. Yes, aging brings changes that we cannot fully prevent, but the trajectory of decline is highly variable and in large part determined by our behaviors. Two individuals of the same age can have vastly different levels of muscle mass, mobility, and independence, depending on whether they have prioritized nutrition and exercise throughout their later years. What is most encouraging is the body's remarkable adaptability. Muscle tissue is dynamic. It responds to stimuli even in older age. When we challenge it with resistance and nourish it with adequate protein and essential nutrients, it adapts by growing stronger. This is a principle we see consistently, whether in young athletes or seniors in assisted living. The capacity is there, it simply needs to be supported. So when we talk about preventing muscle loss after 60, we are really talking about preserving quality of life. This is about maintaining the ability to walk confidently, to play with grandchildren, to travel, to garden, to live without fear of falling or becoming dependent on others. Sarcopenia may begin as a silent, gradual process, but its effects are profoundly visible in how people live their daily lives. And just as importantly, the steps we take to counteract it, eating a protein-rich diet, incorporating resistance activity, staying active and mobile, bring benefits that extend far beyond muscle. They protect the heart, support the brain, and improve metabolic health. Every meal, every choice, every movement matters. By recognizing sarcopenia as not simply a symptom of aging, but as a modifiable condition, we empower ourselves to take control of our health. Whether it's choosing a protein-rich plant food like lentils, making time for light strength exercises, or ensuring adequate micronutrient intake, the actions we take today will determine how strong, mobile, and independent we remain in the years ahead. When most people think of protein, eggs are one of the first foods that come to mind. For decades, eggs have been called a perfect protein because they contain all 9 essential amino acids that the human body cannot produce on its own. A single egg provides about 6 grams of high-quality protein, and for a long time, nutrition science placed eggs at the top of the hierarchy for affordable, accessible protein sources. But as we have continued to learn more about food and nutrition, a surprising truth has emerged. There are plant-based foods widely available and inexpensive that provide even more protein per serving than eggs, while offering additional benefits that go beyond muscle health. One of the best examples of this is lentils. Lentils are small legumes that have been a dietary staple for thousands of years in many cultures across the globe. In South Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and parts of Europe, lentils are not only a source of sustenance, but also an essential part of cultural identity. Yet in Western diets, they have often been overlooked, seen as humble or secondary compared to animal protein. But if we look closely at their nutritional profile, lentils emerge as one of the most powerful foods available to us, particularly for older adults who are at risk of muscle loss. 1 cup of cooked lentils contains roughly 18 grams of protein, 3 times more protein than a single egg. This difference alone is remarkable, but when we look deeper, it becomes clear why lentils deserve more attention, especially when we think about health in the context of aging. To understand why lentils are such an important protein source, it helps to step back and think about what protein actually does in the body. Beyond the obvious function of supporting muscle repair and growth, protein plays a role in nearly every biological process, producing enzymes, synthesizing hormones, supporting immune function, and transporting nutrients. For older adults, protein is particularly critical for preventing sarcopenia, or age-related muscle loss, which we know accelerates after the age of 60. Without adequate protein, the body simply cannot repair muscle tissue at the same rate it breaks it down. This imbalance gradually weakens the muscles, making it harder to move, maintain balance, and perform daily activities. Eggs do provide high-quality protein, but they also come with cholesterol, about 186 milligrams per egg, primarily concentrated in the yolk. For many years, cholesterol in eggs was thought to directly raise blood cholesterol levels, though recent studies have shown that the relationship is more complex. While moderate egg consumption appears safe for most healthy people, for older adults with heart disease, diabetes, or high cholesterol, the recommendation is often to monitor intake. Lentils, by contrast, contain no cholesterol at all. In fact, they contribute to lowering LDL cholesterol levels because they are rich in soluble fiber. That same cup of lentils that provides 18 grams of protein also provides about 15 grams of dietary fiber, something eggs completely lack. Fiber is important not only for digestion, but also for controlling blood sugar, feeding beneficial gut bacteria, and supporting cardiovascular health. Another advantage of lentils is their micronutrient profile. They are packed with iron, folate, magnesium, potassium, and polyphenols, compounds with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Older adults often experience deficiencies in these nutrients, either due to reduced appetite, limited diet variety, or less efficient absorption. Iron, for example, is essential for carrying oxygen through the blood and maintaining energy levels. Folate plays a role in DNA repair and brain health. Magnesium helps with muscle contraction, nerve function, and blood pressure regulation. Potassium supports heart rhythm and counters the effects of sodium, reducing hypertension risk. Together, these nutrients make lentils a nutrient-dense choice that addresses multiple aspects of aging health simultaneously. Critics sometimes argue that plant proteins are incomplete because many do not contain all 9 essential amino acids in sufficient quantities. While this is true for some plant sources, it is a misconception to think this makes them inferior. Lentils contain a strong balance of essential amino acids, particularly rich in lysine, which is often limited in grains. When lentils are eaten alongside whole grains like rice, oats, or quinoa, the amino acid profiles complement each other to provide the same completeness found in animal proteins. In fact, traditional food pairings in many cultures, like lentils with rice in South Asia or beans with corn in Latin America, have evolved over centuries in a way that naturally creates complete proteins. Modern nutrition science is only now catching up to validate the wisdom embedded in these traditional diets. For seniors, the choice between eggs and lentils is not necessarily an either-or situation. Eggs can remain part of a healthy diet for those who tolerate them, but lentils offer a chance to diversify protein sources while gaining benefits that eggs alone cannot provide. Importantly, lentils provide protein in larger volumes without the added fats or cholesterol. They are also more filling due to their fiber, which can help with appetite regulation and weight management, two challenges that often become more pressing with age. A bowl of lentil soup or a lentil salad not only satisfies hunger, but also delivers protein in a way that stabilizes blood sugar, preventing the energy crashes that are common with more refined foods. From a sustainability perspective, lentils also represent a powerful choice. Producing lentils requires far less water and generates fewer greenhouse gas emissions compared to raising livestock for eggs or meat. For those who care about environmental impact or who want to leave a healthier planet for future generations, this adds another layer of meaning to choosing plant-based protein sources. The shift toward lentils is not just about individual health, but about collective responsibility. Another fascinating dimension is how the body processes plant-based versus animal-based proteins. Studies have shown that diets higher in plant protein are associated with lower risks of chronic disease, including cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. Plant proteins tend to come packaged with fiber, antioxidants, and phytochemicals which modulate inflammation and support metabolic health. Animal proteins, on the other hand, often come with saturated fat and cholesterol, which in excess can burden cardiovascular systems, particularly in older adults already facing age-related vascular changes. Thus, when we compare lentils to eggs, it's not only about grams of protein, but about the entire nutritional package surrounding that protein. For seniors concerned about muscle preservation, practical application is key. It is not enough to know that lentils are high in protein. It is necessary to integrate them into daily meals in enjoyable ways. Fortunately, lentils are extremely versatile. They can be used in soups, stews, curries, salads, and even burgers. Unlike some beans, they do not require soaking and cook relatively quickly, making them convenient for individuals who may not want to spend long hours in the kitchen. By preparing a large batch of lentils and refrigerating or freezing portions, one can ensure a steady supply of protein-rich meals throughout the week. For example, a senior might add lentils to a vegetable soup for lunch, mix them into a salad for dinner, or pure them into a dip to spread on whole grain toast for breakfast. Each of these options provides both protein and fiber, setting the stage for stable energy and muscle protection throughout the day. Ultimately, the comparison between eggs and lentils highlights a broader theme in nutrition, the need to look beyond single nutrients and consider the context of the whole food. Eggs are not inherently bad, they are a nutritious option when consumed mindfully. But lentils demonstrate that plant-based foods can offer equal or greater benefits in terms of protein while also delivering additional health-promoting compounds. For older adults seeking to maintain strength, vitality, and independence, lentils are an invaluable ally. They provide more protein per serving than eggs, but they also nourish the body in ways that extend far beyond muscle preservation. When we step back and reflect, the choice becomes clear. By incorporating lentils regularly into our diets, we not only support our own health as we age, but also align with dietary patterns that are sustainable, nutrient-rich, and deeply connected to human history. It is an elegant reminder that sometimes the simplest foods, those that have sustained civilizations for centuries, still hold the greatest power to nourish us today. When we think of food, especially in the context of preventing muscle loss and supporting healthy aging, it's easy to focus almost exclusively on protein. Protein has been the headline nutrient, the one most frequently associated with strength, vitality, and resilience. But food is never just about one nutrient. What makes whole foods so remarkable, particularly those from plants, is the rich constellation of compounds they carry with them: fiber, minerals, vitamins, and a wide spectrum of phytochemicals. Lentils are one of the clearest examples of this truth. While their protein content alone makes them exceptional, it is the full nutritional package that elevates them to a place of unique importance for older adults. One of the defining features of lentils is their high fiber content. A single cup of cooked lentils contains about 15 grams of dietary fiber, which is roughly half of the daily recommendation for older adults. Fiber is a nutrient that is too often underappreciated, yet its benefits are extraordinary. For digestion, fiber provides bulk that helps regulate bowel movements and prevent constipation, an issue that becomes increasingly common with age due to reduced mobility, medication use, and slower gut motility. But fiber's impact goes well beyond regularity. Soluble fiber in particular forms a gel-like substance in the gut that binds to cholesterol and bile acids, helping to lower LDL cholesterol levels. Numerous studies have shown that higher fiber intake is directly associated with lower rates of cardiovascular disease, which remains the leading cause of death in older populations. Fiber also influences blood sugar control. As we age, insulin sensitivity often declines, raising the risk of type 2 diabetes. Foods rich in fiber, like lentils, slow the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream, preventing sharp spikes and crashes in blood sugar. This not only reduces the long-term risk of diabetes, but also provides more stable daily energy levels. Beyond that, fiber acts as a prebiotic food for the beneficial bacteria living in our intestines. A thriving gut microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, which reduce inflammation, strengthen the intestinal lining, and even influence brain health through the gut-brain axis. What begins with something as simple as eating lentils cascades into profound systemic effects, from improved digestion to reduced inflammation to enhanced cognitive resilience. Lentils are also a concentrated source of iron, which is vital for carrying oxygen in the blood. Iron deficiency is one of the most common nutrient deficiencies worldwide and is especially problematic in older adults. Fatigue, weakness, and impaired cognition are all linked to low iron levels. While it is true that the iron in lentils, non-heme iron, is not as readily absorbed as the heme iron found in animal products, the picture is more nuanced. Absorption of plant-based iron can be improved significantly by pairing lentils with foods rich in vitamin C, such as tomatoes, bell peppers, or citrus fruits. A simple lentil soup with tomatoes or a lentil salad with lemon juice not only tastes wonderful, but also maximizes the bioavailability of iron. Over time, this supports better energy levels, sharper focus, and the endurance needed to remain active well into later years. Magnesium is another mineral abundant in lentils, and it plays multiple roles that are particularly relevant to aging. Magnesium is required for muscle contraction and relaxation, nerve transmission, and over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. Low magnesium intake has been linked to increased risk of hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and type 2 diabetes. For seniors who often face challenges with muscle cramps, poor sleep, or elevated blood pressure, magnesium from lentils provides a gentle food-based solution. Unlike supplements, magnesium in whole foods comes with a balance of other nutrients that support its absorption and utilization. Potassium, also richly present in lentils, serves as a counterbalance to sodium. While sodium raises blood pressure by increasing fluid retention and vascular resistance, potassium promotes vasodilation and helps the kidneys excrete sodium. The modern diet, heavily reliant on processed foods, tends to be overloaded with sodium and deficient in potassium. For older adults, this imbalance is a major driver of hypertension and cardiovascular stress. By incorporating lentils regularly, potassium intake increases naturally, helping restore equilibrium and blood pressure regulation. This contributes not only to heart health, but also to reduced risk of stroke, a leading cause of disability in seniors. Beyond fiber and minerals, lentils contain an impressive array of polyphenols, bioactive plant compounds that function as antioxidants and anti-inflammatory agents. Polyphenols help neutralize free radicals, unstable molecules that can damage cells and accelerate the aging process. Oxidative stress driven by free radicals has been implicated in nearly every chronic disease of aging, from Alzheimer's to atherosclerosis to cancer. Lentils' polyphenols, including flavonoids and tannins, provide a shield against this oxidative stress. What is fascinating is that these compounds do not act in isolation. They interact synergistically with other nutrients, amplifying their effects in ways we are only beginning to fully understand. Emerging research even suggests that lentil polyphenols may help modulate gene expression, influencing pathways involved in inflammation, metabolism, and cellular repair. Brain health is another area where lentils' nutrient profile makes a meaningful difference. As we age, the risk of cognitive decline increases, while genetics and lifestyle factors both play roles. Diet is one of the most powerful levers we can control. The folate in lentils is particularly important for cognitive function. Folate helps regulate homocysteine levels in the blood, and elevated homocysteine has been linked to cognitive impairment and dementia. Adequate folate intake, therefore, acts as a protective factor for the brain. Combined with antioxidants and the anti-inflammatory effects of fiber-driven gut health, lentils create a nutritional environment that supports not only sharper memory, but also greater resilience against neurodegenerative diseases. What makes this all so compelling is how lentils tie these diverse benefits together. For the heart, they lower cholesterol, regulate blood pressure, and stabilize blood sugar. For the brain, they supply folate, polyphenols, and microbiome support. For the digestive system, they provide fiber that improves function and fosters a healthier gut environment. And for muscles, they provide abundant protein along with magnesium and potassium to optimize contraction and recovery. Instead of viewing lentils as a single nutrient food, we begin to see them as a multi-system ally, a food that touches nearly every organ system in ways that matter most as we age. Another important aspect is accessibility. Lentils are affordable, shelf-stable, and easy to prepare. Unlike some health foods that are expensive or difficult to find, lentils are available almost everywhere and require no refrigeration. For seniors living on fixed incomes or with limited access to fresh foods, this is critical. A bag of lentils provides multiple servings of high-quality nutrition at a fraction of the cost of animal protein. Moreover, because they cook relatively quickly compared to other legumes, lentils fit seamlessly into the daily routine without requiring extensive preparation time. It is also worth noting that lentils' versatility allows them to be integrated into many cuisines, whether in the form of Indian dal, Mediterranean lentil salads, or hearty lentil stews. They adapt to a wide range of flavors and dietary preferences. For seniors who may experience a decline in appetite, lentils can be seasoned in creative ways that enhance palatability while still delivering substantial nutrition. The sensory pleasure of food, taste, texture, aroma is not just about enjoyment. It plays a vital role in stimulating appetite and ensuring consistent nutrient intake. Ultimately, what emerges when we look at lentils in their entirety is a picture of a food that is profoundly suited to the needs of aging adults. They are not only about preventing muscle loss, although that alone would be reason enough to celebrate them. They are about strengthening the heart, preserving brain function, supporting digestion, and maintaining energy levels. They are about nourishing the whole person, body and mind, in a way that is sustainable, affordable, and deeply aligned with long-term health. In a culture that so often glorifies single nutrients or miracle supplements, lentils remind us of the power of whole foods. Their benefits cannot be reduced to a single metric like grams of protein. They offer an integrated package of nutrition that works in harmony with the human body, addressing the interconnected challenges of aging in a natural, balanced way. For older adults striving not only to live longer but to live better, lentils are an invaluable addition to the daily diet, one that supports strength, independence, and vitality well into the later decades of life. One of the most striking differences between plant-based proteins and animal-based proteins is the presence or absence of cholesterol. Cholesterol is a waxy substance that our bodies actually need in small amounts. It helps form cell membranes, produce hormones, and support other essential functions. The liver is fully capable of producing all the cholesterol we require for health, meaning dietary cholesterol is not necessary. When we consume animal-based foods such as eggs, meat, and dairy, we are adding cholesterol to what our body is already making. For some individuals, this dietary cholesterol has little effect on blood cholesterol levels, but for many others, especially older adults with pre-existing risk factors, it can raise LDL cholesterol, the type most associated with atherosclerosis or the buildup of fatty plaques in the arteries. Plant-based proteins, including lentils, beans, peas, and soy products, contain zero cholesterol. This is not a trivial distinction. For seniors who may already be dealing with elevated cholesterol, hypertension, or other cardiovascular issues, choosing foods that do not contribute additional cholesterol becomes an important strategy for protecting arterial health. What's fascinating is that it is not only the absence of cholesterol in these foods that matters, but also what comes along with them. In lentils, for example, the fiber, polyphenols, and micronutrients actively help lower LDL cholesterol and improve overall cardiovascular markers. In other words, lentils do not simply avoid adding to the problem, they actually contribute to the solution. The aging cardiovascular system deserves special attention. With age, arteries naturally become less elastic, a process known as arteriosclerosis. This stiffening makes it harder for blood to flow smoothly, increasing the likelihood of high blood pressure and heart strain. When cholesterol-rich plaques accumulate within the arterial walls, the vessels narrow and harden further, raising the risk of heart attack and stroke. Seniors are particularly vulnerable to these complications, not only because of the biological changes that come with aging, but also because decades of dietary and lifestyle choices accumulate over time. At this stage of life, small differences in food choices can have amplified effects on health outcomes. Replacing animal-based protein with plant-based protein is one of the most effective dietary strategies for reducing cardiovascular risk. Large epidemiological studies have consistently shown that populations consuming diets rich in legumes, nuts, and whole grains have lower rates of heart disease compared to those whose protein comes predominantly from animal sources. In controlled trials, substituting plant protein for animal protein leads to measurable reductions in LDL cholesterol, blood pressure, and markers of systemic inflammation within weeks or months. These changes are not theoretical, they are quantifiable, and they translate directly into fewer heart attacks, strokes, and premature deaths. It is also important to consider the context in which proteins are consumed. When we eat animal proteins, we are often consuming them alongside saturated fat, which has a more consistent and direct impact on raising LDL cholesterol levels than dietary cholesterol itself. A breakfast of eggs and bacon, for example, delivers both cholesterol and saturated fat in significant amounts. Lentils, by contrast, contain no saturated fat and instead provide fiber that binds to cholesterol in the digestive tract, escorting it out of the body. This dual effect, removing excess cholesterol while not adding any new cholesterol, creates a powerful nutritional advantage for plant-based proteins. The cardiovascular benefits of plant proteins extend beyond the arteries themselves. Inflammation is a critical factor in heart disease, and diets rich in animal protein have been associated with higher levels of inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein. Plant proteins, especially those from legumes like lentils, come packaged with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds that dampen these responses. The polyphenols in lentils, for instance, scavenge free radicals and reduce oxidative stress, which is one of the driving forces behind vascular damage. Seniors consuming more plant-based proteins are not just lowering cholesterol, they are creating an internal environment that is less conducive to chronic inflammation and more supportive of healing and repair. Blood pressure is another area where plant-based proteins show their strength. Hypertension is one of the most common chronic conditions among older adults, and it is a leading contributor to both heart disease and stroke. Potassium-rich foods like lentils help balance the effects of sodium in the diet, relaxing blood vessels and lowering pressure. When sodium intake is high, as it often is in Western diets, heavy in processed foods, the arteries retain water and stiffen. Potassium works in the opposite direction, promoting fluid balance and vessel flexibility. Studies have shown that diets emphasizing legumes and other plant-based proteins are associated with lower average blood pressure and reduced need for antihypertensive medications. From a practical perspective, the replacement of animal protein with plant protein does not have to be absolute to confer benefits. Even small shifts, replacing a few animal-based meals per week with lentil-based dishes, can yield measurable improvements in cholesterol and blood pressure. For seniors, this approach is realistic and sustainable. It does not require giving up all animal foods overnight. Rather, it encourages an incremental transition that builds long-term health. For instance, replacing scrambled eggs at breakfast with a lentil and vegetable stew a few times per week can gradually reduce cholesterol intake while boosting fiber and potassium. Over months and years, the compounding effects of such small shifts add up significantly. It is also worth reflecting on the psychological and cultural dimensions of food choice. Many seniors grew up with the belief that animal protein is superior and plant foods are side dishes rather than central components of a meal. Changing this perspective is not simply about providing nutritional facts, but about reframing the narrative. By emphasizing the unique strengths of lentils, their protein content, their heart protective qualities, and their versatility in global cuisines, we can help older adults see them not as a compromise, but as an opportunity. This shift in mindset is crucial because adherence to dietary changes depends not only on knowledge, but also on enjoyment, tradition, and cultural acceptance. The broader health benefits of lowering dietary cholesterol through plant-based proteins also extend to conditions beyond cardiovascular disease. For example, kidney function, which often declines with age, is better supported by plant proteins than animal proteins. Plant proteins generate less acid load on the kidneys, reducing the risk of further kidney damage. This is particularly relevant for older adults, many of whom have reduced renal function even in the absence of overt disease. Choosing lentils over eggs or meat therefore has protective effects that go beyond the heart, reaching into multiple organ systems. What makes lentils stand out in this discussion is their accessibility. They are inexpensive, widely available, and adaptable to a wide range of recipes. For seniors living on fixed incomes or dealing with limited access to fresh produce, lentils represent an opportunity to eat in a way that is both health-promoting and affordable. Unlike supplements or expensive health foods, lentils deliver their benefits in a familiar, comforting, and practical form. This accessibility is part of what makes them such a powerful tool in the effort to reduce cardiovascular risk in older populations. When we consider the full picture, the contrast becomes clear. Animal proteins provide high-quality amino acids, but bring with them cholesterol, saturated fat, and in some cases, higher inflammatory potential. Plant proteins like lentils provide the same amino acids in sufficient quantities when consumed as part of a balanced diet, but they bring no cholesterol, very little fat, and an abundance of heart-supporting nutrients. For seniors striving to maintain independence and vitality, this distinction is critical. Every meal becomes a chance to either add strain to the arteries or relieve it. Choosing lentils is choosing relief, resilience, and renewal. In the end, the value of lentils and other plant-based proteins is not limited to what they lack, but extends to what they offer. They lack cholesterol, yes, but they offer fiber, antioxidants, potassium, magnesium, and iron. They offer lower blood pressure, healthier arteries, and reduced risk of heart disease. They offer a pathway to aging, not just with more years, but with more quality in those years. For older adults, the stakes are high, but the solution can be surprisingly simple by leaning more toward plant-based proteins and reducing reliance on animal proteins. It is possible to protect the heart, strengthen the body, and sustain the independence that makes later life rich and fulfilling. One of the most profound aspirations of aging is a desire to remain independent. Independence means being able to move freely, care for oneself, and engage in the activities that make life meaningful. There is a difference between relying on others for basic needs and maintaining the autonomy to live life on one's own terms. As we move beyond 60, the preservation of independence becomes a central health goal, not only for individuals, but for families, caregivers, and society at large. Nutrition, often underestimated in its impact, is one of the strongest determinants of how well we maintain our independence. Among the many aspects of nutrition, protein intake stands out as particularly critical. In foods like lentils, rich in protein and other essential nutrients, play a key role in ensuring that independence is not lost prematurely. Muscle is at the heart of independence. Strong muscles allow us to walk confidently, rise from a chair, climb stairs, carry groceries, and protect ourselves from falls. Sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle mass and function with age, directly threatens these abilities. What begins as subtle weakness, a slower walking pace, difficulty standing up, or fatigue when carrying household items can progress to serious limitations in mobility. Without sufficient muscle, even simple daily tasks become challenging, leading to greater reliance on caregivers or assistive devices. Maintaining muscle mass and strength is therefore not just about fitness. It is about preserving the capacity to live independently. Protein provides the raw material for muscle maintenance and repair. After the age of 60, the body becomes less efficient at converting dietary protein into muscle tissue, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. This means that older adults need more protein than younger adults to stimulate the same level of muscle protein synthesis. While the recommended dietary allowance for protein in adults is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, many experts in aging and nutrition now argue that seniors may benefit from 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, and sometimes even higher depending on activity level and health status. Unfortunately, surveys consistently show that many older adults consume less protein than they need, either due to reduced appetite, chewing difficulties, or limited food choices. Lentils present an elegant solution to this problem. 1 cup of cooked lentils provides about 18 grams of protein, along with fiber, iron, potassium, and other nutrients that complement protein's role in supporting muscle health. Unlike some animal-based proteins, lentils come without the cholesterol or high levels of saturated fat that can burden the heart. For seniors who may already be managing cardiovascular concerns, this is a crucial distinction. By incorporating lentils into meals regularly, older adults can increase their protein intake in a way that is both health-promoting and easy to sustain. Mobility is not just about muscle mass, it is also about energy, coordination, and recovery. Lentils contribute here as well. Their complex carbohydrates provide slow-release energy, preventing the blood sugar spikes and crashes that can sap energy and impair balance. Their magnesium and potassium support proper muscle contraction and nerve function, helping maintain coordination. Their iron helps prevent fatigue by ensuring adequate oxygen delivery throughout the body. When these systems are working in harmony, the body is not only stronger but also more stable and resilient in daily movement. Consider the impact of falls, one of the most serious threats to independence among older adults. Falls are a leading cause of injury and hospitalization in seniors, and recovery is often prolonged and incomplete. Weak muscles, poor balance, and low bone density all increase fall risk. Protein-rich diets that include lentils support muscle strength, but they also contribute indirectly to bone health by maintaining the muscle mass needed to protect and stabilize joints. In combination with resistance exercise, a diet rich in plant-based proteins like lentils can significantly reduce the risk of falls, protecting not just physical health, but the independence that depends on it. Independence also relies on the ability to recover from illness or surgery. Hospital stays are often accompanied by rapid muscle loss due to inactivity, a process called disuse atrophy. Older adults are especially vulnerable to this decline, and many never regain the muscle they lose during periods of immobility. Adequate protein intake before, during, and after hospitalization is a key factor in recovery. Lentils, being easy to prepare, digestible, and nutrient-dense, can be particularly valuable in these contexts. They provide the amino acids necessary for repair, while their fiber and micronutrients support overall resilience. Beyond the physical, independence is tied to mental health. Being able to care for oneself fosters confidence, dignity, and a sense of purpose. Conversely, losing independence often brings feelings of frustration, depression, and social isolation. Nutrition plays a role here too. Lentils folate supports brain function and helps regulate mood through its role in neurotransmitter synthesis. Their steady energy release helps maintain mental focus, while their polyphenols reduce inflammation, which has been linked not only to physical disease, but also to cognitive decline. When protein and nutrients from foods like lentils are adequate, the brain functions more effectively, supporting both decision-making and emotional stability, key elements of living independently. An often overlooked factor in independence is affordability and accessibility of healthy foods. Many seniors live on fixed incomes, and the rising cost of animal-based proteins can make it difficult to meet nutritional needs. Lentils are inexpensive, widely available, and have a long shelf life, making them an accessible source of high-quality protein for nearly everyone. A single bag of lentils can provide multiple meals, stretching a limited budget while still delivering robust nutrition. This affordability means that seniors can consistently meet their protein needs without financial strain, which is essential for maintaining health and independence over the long term. The cultural versatility of lentils adds to their value. They can be adapted to a wide range of cuisines, from Indian dales to Mediterranean salads to hearty stews. This flexibility makes it easier for older adults to enjoy lentils regularly without monotony. Enjoyment is not a trivial matter. It is central to adherence. A diet only works if it is sustained, and people are far more likely to sustain a diet that brings pleasure as well as health benefits. By being incorporated into familiar or flavorful dishes, lentils become not only a source of strength, but also a source of comfort and satisfaction. What emerges from this understanding is that protein-rich foods like lentils do far more than preserve muscle. They maintain the very foundation of independence, strength, mobility, recovery, resilience, and mental clarity. When seniors meet their protein needs through nutrient-dense, cholesterol-free foods like lentils, they are giving themselves the tools to keep walking, lifting, playing, and living on their own terms. This is not about avoiding frailty alone. It is about creating the possibility of thriving in the later decades of life. It is worth remembering that independence is not defined solely by the absence of disease. It is defined by the presence of capacity, the capacity to move, to act, to decide, to engage. Protein supports that capacity at the most fundamental biological level. And lentils, with their rich blend of protein and supportive nutrients, help ensure that this capacity remains intact for as long as possible. When we frame food not simply as fuel but as empowerment, the role of lentils becomes clear. They are not just another item on the plate, they are a means of protecting the autonomy that makes life rich and meaningful. For those over 60, every meal is an opportunity. It is a chance to either strengthen or weaken the body, to either preserve or diminish independence. By choosing protein-rich foods like lentils, seniors choose to invest in their own mobility, strength, and freedom. This choice, repeated daily, becomes a powerful determinant of how gracefully and independently one can age. In that sense, the humble lentil represents something far greater than itself. It represents the possibility of maintaining independence, dignity, and vitality in the years when they matter most.